Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Darrington, the Director of Technical Marketing, and I'm going to walk you through a demo of Graylog. Graylog is a SIM and log management platform that pulls all of your security and IT logs into one place, and it makes them easy to work with. It normalizes the data, adds context like threat intel and asset details, and lets analysts investigate issues without bouncing between multiple tools. You will get a clear view of what's happening, why it matters, and what to do next, whether it's a suspicious login, odd network behavior, or just a genuine incident. The workflows cut down on alert fatigue and reduce the time it takes to go from an alert to an actual answer. Graylog is a flexible platform that will allow you to install in your on-prem hybrid cloud, or your own managed cloud, or in Graylog Cloud. Graylog also gives teams flexible control over how they store and access the data, keeping frequently used information fast and historical data easily accessible in a data lake. Overall, it helps teams detect real issues faster and handle investigations with fewer steps and fewer headaches. Up next, I'll walk you through some of the features of Graylog. Getting data into Graylog. Graylog includes many standard inputs to bring data in. Under System and Inputs, you will notice there are many different kinds of inputs, from API polling type inputs to AWS and GCP, and others are receiving, including syslog, Ceph, HTTP, Guelph, and many other custom input types for different types of data and integrations. Input wizards are built, so when you bring in data, you have the ability to walk through some of the collections of parsing and dashboards that you can attach to the different data source types. So you can bring this in as you're building it. Once you've done that, if you've chosen that data, you can link it to streams, and the ability to start the input and start collecting right off the hop. Other things you can do inside of Graylog, you do have the ability to look at the diagnostics for the input. So the diagnostics itself, if you're having any errors with the logs coming in, you will get reports in here with some of the logs and the messages. With these inputs, you also have outputs. In the output format area, you can select different types of outputs where you take existing logs. You may want to forward them to other systems or keep them redundant across other clusters. This is a method of doing it here as types of output to the individual areas where you're sending them. Now, covering data input, we do support additional types of log shippers that you'll see here in a feature called sidecars. Other log shippers like WinLogBeat, FileBeat, AuditBeat, MetricBeat, and NXLog are all ways of shipping logs from Windows, Linux, and Mac, or other custom OS devices. You'll see in the configuration, we have a variety of individual collectors. These collectors are the ability to take and centralize the individual configurations of these logs so that you can manipulate them at a later date. For example, you might be logging in this particular instance. I'm showing you here, I'm using an old Windows 10 machine and I'm logging a ton of logs. You might want to scale that back to very specific log types. And you can do this by individual configurations where the file beat or packet beat can be set up for specific log events only. Enterprise integrations for onboarding data is done through Illuminate. The Illuminate Content Hub is where you'll see a variety of different types. Right now, you'll just notice I have an updated version of Illuminate, and it's allowing me to find out what is brand new in Illuminate. You'll see I've got some 1Password logs, some different AWS VPC Kinesis spotlights. You'll have spotlight packs and processing packs. Processing packs to parse the data, spotlights to highlight dashboards. You'll also take those and implement them across the different data sources. But with the threat coverage widget, you will notice under Graylog, and then you go to Graylog and security, you're going to notice a wheel in the security field here where you can add or improve your coverage based on MITRE ATT&CK tactics. So with MITRE ATT&CK tactics, you can go in here and add the individual threats by enabling the Illuminate packs, as well as going in and enabling the Sigma rules that you would like to have for your different source types. And that's how we cover off some of the onboarding of data and what options you have for your data inside of Graylog. Graylog offers many data management features to preserve your data. It could be over the long term, or as well by enabling cost efficiencies, routing data to a data lake. You'll notice here for archiving, you have the ability to create archives to the file system or send it to AWS S3 buckets or Google Cloud Storage. You have the ability inside each index to configure rotation and retention schedules based on where you would like that to go. You have the ability to archive before you delete data, or you have the ability to preview data within searchable snapshots in the warm tier. As you see here, we've assigned the S3 warm tier for these particular messages for this Fortinet set of log messages. When you go into Graylog and you've got streams, you have the ability to make the choice for data routing. This is where data routing comes in when you want to store data outside of your licensed storage in Datanode. You may want to take data in, parse it, but then not keep it stored for active search. You might want to just store it off in the cloud for a later date to pull that back in. When you've done this, you've chosen particular logs. In this case, I'm looking at DNS messages. These DNS messages are automatically being sent to Data Lake. Inside Data Lake, you have the ability to actually preview what's in there without actually costing against your license. If you choose to take this data and bring it back into Graylog, you can. You have the ability to highlight the individual messages and with bulk actions, retrieve the logs or send it to an investigation. Inside of Data Lake, once your job is complete, you'll see the details of the size of the job. You might have retrieved a few logs, or you could have retrieved a large amount of logs over a certain amount of time. You'll get this message under the Data Lake retrieval section. Access control and audit logs are in Graylog, and in Graylog for user management, you have the ability to build out the individual users themselves and tie specific permissions inside of Graylog for those individual users. There are alternate methods for accessing Graylog. So if you go to users and authentication, you'll notice here I'm utilizing the LDAP functionality. And what I've done is I've synchronized two security teams from my Active Directory for security admins and security managers. Those individual users are also built in Graylog, and those users in the same groups in Active Directory will also synchronize right directly into Graylog. You do have granular control though. You can go in the individual users and modify their individual access rights within there. The next thing you can do is create a new service. We have multiple services available. You can use the Active Directory or LDAP. You also have OIDC, Okta, and SSO or SAML. With OIDC, you do have the ability to use single sign-on with other providers like Auth0, Entra ID, Google, Keycloak, Ping, and One Login. So you do have those abilities within Graylog as well. One additional thing that is in Graylog, you can go into the enterprise feature for collections. And when you want to share dashboards or searches or other things, this is a quick way of sharing this information amongst the users inside of Graylog. As an example, I have two groups in here, security managers and security admins. When they typically share things, they'll share them within their own individual departments. But in this case, I do have a department called for finance. And in finance, they are looking specifically, as an example, at some of the Bitcoin pricing and gold pricing. So as searches and things are being done in Graylog, they have the ability to share that directly with the collections group directly, instead of sharing it across Graylog wide to all users inside of Graylog. Next, we can look at audit log, and inside enterprise and audit log, you'll notice all the entries are being placed in here. If you wanted to do a quick search on dashboard, you'll know what dashboards are being modified or shared or viewed. If you want to search by individual username, you can do that as well and find information on a particular user. This then can be exported by JSON or CSV, and now you have the ability to export for compliance purposes. Graylog includes dashboards and reports. You'll notice inside Graylog, you have many different kinds of dashboards that are built into Illuminate if you have enterprise or security. However, if you are building your own dashboards, I can show you how quickly it is to build out some dashboards based on some information. So you see, I have a bunch of logs coming in here. And what I'd like to do is use the Graylog information model. And I'm going to look for the actual event type of logon. and you'll see it's predictively telling me the fields that are available. So I can actually go down and select those fields, and I'm going to type in log on. You'll instantly get access to the logs that are showing a log on. Well, now I want to aggregate, look at some actual values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the first log, and I'm going to look for a field for event source product. Event source product will be the different types of logins that are done across OS or individual pieces of hardware. And I can show the top values. It does put it down at the bottom, so we can bring this up to the top. Now you'll notice I'm tracking all event types of logons through what are the logs that I'm actually logging for. So you're showing here Cisco ASA, you're showing Palo Alto for Pen OS logins, O365 and Windows. You can narrow this down by selecting which streams of data that you want to look at. So you're not searching all of your data. You can specify if you just want to look at Windows logs. You can take this a little bit further, and you can easily take this individual table and you can convert it by just duplicating the actual chart. So if we duplicate the chart, it's very easy to modify it. And I'm going to change this to a pie chart. And the pie chart, I only want to look at the percentage. So I'll just take that one aggregation off, and you'll notice how quickly it adds it to the dashboard. If I want to duplicate this a different way, we do have the data represented exactly the same way, just in different widgets or different formats. I can duplicate this as well. And I will go in and I will change this to a bar chart and add it to the current search. Now I've got some progress on my search. I might want to save this and come back later. So here's where you can click the save button. You can name this, call it temp logon search. And this is where you can save it. You can share it to others in the team. I'm just going to save it so I can come back to it at a later time. And now I can recall this anytime I want. So if I go back to search and I don't have anything here, I can literally go to load and type temp and show the temp logon search, and I can load it. I can also highlight it in my favorites. So if I click this, my homepage will show it in my favorites. You can also take this and transfer this from a buildable, savable search into a dashboard. To do that, you go to the far right-hand side, click here and export to dashboard. Now you've exported it to a dashboard, and you can save as. In this case, I'm not going to call it temp logon search. I'm just going to call it logon search and create dashboard. Now, with the dashboard, you do have the ability to get a little bit more granular. You can start, obviously, in every search, save the names of the widgets that you've got. But when you modify them, you do have the ability to change the parameters inside the individual widget. So you can change the timeframes. So you might want logons for the last 24 hours in one widget. You might want logons for the last 7 days in another widget to count. And it's the ability to look at data on a dashboard so that you can see it from different timeframes and get it into a more custom arrangement. Something else you might want to add to this individual search or dashboard is you might want to know who is logging in. So you can go to the logs and let's do an aggregation based on the field user_name. That is the actual field that's normalized for all logon events. For the username itself is username. So we will show top values with username, and you'll notice here at the bottom, we've got the widget. I'm going to bring it up to the top here and add it. And now you'll notice the individual usernames for the account names that are being used, and you'll get the individual counts of these individual logins. An additional thing you might want to do is add filters. Filters are very quick ways of assigning an individual button on the top row here. So for example, I want to create a search query, and instead of typing the query, I might just want to click a button to get the results. So in this case, event source product, I just want to see if there's any individual logons for Windows. So I'll go in here and I'll just type Windows logons, and I'll create the filter. And you'll see when you click the filter, it only shows that data specific to the filter. So you could build multiple filters across here. These filters could be used for anything. You could be used as thread hunting capabilities where there are very specific processes, tasks, or commands in PowerShell, or different protocols being used like SSH, FTP, and you can just very quickly have a look at data and look at what comes back from the search results in a particular window. Like search filters, there is another feature that I could show you. I've got it built into another dashboard where I have what's called a parameter or a parameter search. On the right-hand side, you'll see it's under applications. So what I did was I created a parameter for the name applications, and I've created it based on a field. So when you look at the field application name, the individual values will appear. So I've declared these variables, and now you'll see in this particular instance, I've got syslog running and capturing information from the different types of messages. I can here drop down this actual drop-down list for the different types, and I can do a very quick search based on the values of that particular field. So again, you can use this. I could set a parameter for username and then drop down on the usernames and inspect what might be happening with that individual user and use that feature right across the dashboards. Once you've got your dashboards running, this allows you to go in and build reports in Graylog Enterprise and Security. So I'm going to take you to another dashboard, and on my homepage, I have a gold dashboard. This gold dashboard is tracking in Canadian dollars the individual pricing to an API that pulls out every day, multiple times a day, to actually look at the individual gold prices. So I'm a dark mode person. I like dark mode. So you'll see this individual dashboard is in dark mode, and there's a variety of logging and widgets that have been added here. You may not want this to look the same way in a report. The report will be emailed and you'll want to look at it in a different way. So what I've done is I've created a reports tab. The reports tab has the same data, but because I was in dark mode, depending on the output on a page, on a print job, or in a PDF, depending on which format you send it in an email, you might need to change the colors based on what you might want to do with the report. So I built this report in this dashboard so that you could see it as a report. So when you go to Enterprise and Reports, a report that I've built, and when you click on the report, I'm going to edit it and show you what options you have. So this one I called the Graylog Gold Report. And you'll notice when you scroll down in the page, it's giving everything in grayscale because that's the color that I chose in the Reports tab in the data, in the actual dashboard itself. And then the additional widgets are here showing the lowest price of gold and the highest price of gold. Now, this is a very simple dashboard and a very simple report, but I wanted to show the relationship between how you build reports and how you may want them to look differently from your dashboards. In this particular report, I built the content based on the widgets, and they are the widgets that are built inside the dashboard. You'll see the different ones that I've got here. The delivery method, you do have the ability to run a schedule. You can add a schedule and a frequency, an hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. You can send an email to a particular recipient that's been built inside of Graylog. You can modify the style of the report, upload your logo like I did here with Graylog. And then in the actual report, you can add the ability to change whether it's portrait or landscape, change the A4 or letter size. You can also add different individual footers and table of contents and things inside the report. And that finishes off dashboards and reports. Graylog offers multiple ways to create events and alerts. The primary method is based on a standard event definition, which is the results of a particular search and the results of a particular field or multiple fields in a search to then trigger a notification if needed. The second level of alerts and event definitions is a correlation. That is multiple event definitions in a chain that will identify something specifically occurring. The third is the Graylog security enabled Sigma rules, and we'll go through these right now. So with the standard alerts, you'll have the ability to have them show up in this panel, and you'll get alerts based on the different types that you define. I've defined a few here. The first one I want to go through really quickly with you is a SSH logon attempt failure. So we're going to look at this one really quick. And what this event definition does is it creates just basically a search. This search is based on the application name for SSH, and the message contains failed password for. Could be a user, could be an account, could be a service account, and it will log the message when this happens. The next one I want to go over is the failed SSH logon max attempts reached. So if someone's been trying to log on multiple times with SSH and they reach the maximum attempts and the account gets locked out, or the attempts force the failure of a connection for the individual login session. So in this one, you'll notice there is one thing I've done with it, and I've included failed SSH logon max attempts reached remediation steps. Remediation steps are steps you can add to an event definition to help you troubleshoot or fix the issue at hand. In this particular alert, you will notice the filter and aggregation is a little bit more specific. It's focused around the maximum authentication attempts exceeded. This will be alerted anytime someone's reached the maximum in your settings. The third one is a correlation. So the correlation of the two. So if I don't want to send a notification for a given event, this one will be set up in such a way that it will chain multiple events together with an event correlation. Event correlation, you'll see I have more than one event definitions. You can have more than two. This will just chain together events that you know would have occurred within a certain amount of time to give you a little bit higher fidelity of an alert or of a notification, so you know that something is going wrong or something is happening. So what I've done is combined these two event definitions, failed SSH logon attempt and failed SSH logon max attempts reached. And then what I've done is enabled a notification by going in, and this one I'm going to define a Discord alert and the summary and save it. And you will notice that I have the ability to have a notification sent to Discord. And that looks like this. You'll see the fields and information are passed into the alert into Discord. Now this could be Discord, it could be Slack, it could be MS Teams, it could be an email, it could be an HTTP notification to a web server or a ticketing system. And we'll go over those here in just a quick moment. Next, what I'd like to do is go to security and go to our more advanced alerting and event definitions. Under Sigma rules, we do have the ability to add the rules located in the Sigma rules HQ repository. The existing rules we have inside Illuminate are curated alerts across all of the different types of content and data that are built into Illuminate. So you'll have a variety of these inside of Graylog. If we pick any one of these rules, you'll notice that the rules can be edited. You can create your own new rule if you wish and tie it to custom data that you might have. And you have the ability inside of this to actually create exports and downloads of these to save them and modify them locally. With Sigma rules, you do have the ability in Graylog security that when you go to the security perspective, while you onboard data, you have the ability to add detections in Sigma rules and in Illuminate that will build out your MITRE attack tactics on this chart. As you add different threat event definitions and detections, this will build out your individual threat profile. And you can build this out as you add new content into Graylog. I talked very quickly earlier regarding notifications and the way you can transmit event definitions or alerts to a notification. When you go into alerts under notifications, you have multiple different kinds of alerts you can create. You can create script notifications, which is part of Graylog Enterprise, where if you're writing Python scripts or PowerShell, you can fire off a script with one of the alerts and perform actions. There's PagerDuty, Slack notifications, Microsoft Teams. There's also email notification, HTTP notification, and custom HTTP notifications for custom JSON payload inside the message. And that covers off our alerts, events, and notifications for Graylog. Graylog Security incorporates AI and machine learning to detect outliers in datasets, allowing you to receive alerts whenever something deviates from its usual behavior. The AI, ML, and UEBA detections are built part of Illuminate content inside of Graylog. So you'll notice here on the Illuminate dashboard, under the security option at the top, there have been 2 high-grade anomalies detected. You have the ability to pivot right from here and play back those individual searches so that you can find out exactly what they were. In this case, they were unusual data transfers that were detected inside of the log messages in Cisco ASA. You'll note in the alerts panel at the bottom, you'll see this Cisco ASA unusual data transfer. That has already been built in with part of the AI and ML capabilities of the alerting. So it's more advanced as far as how the alerts are set up. These alerts are running ongoing. So as your detections have seen some anomalous behavior, you'll get alerts sent to your Slack, Teams, or method where you would like. Inside the security and anomalies, you do have the ability to pick from multiple kinds of anomalies that we have built in the product. You also can create your own detector. If you're ingesting logs from a very specific source or something very custom, you have the ability to build your own inside Graylog Security for these individual data sets. Graylog Security includes investigations. Investigations is a module inside of Graylog that allows you to collect evidence from logs, dashboards, alerts, save searches, or other things inside of Graylog. You'll notice here under the investigations module, we have a number of investigations that are being run right now at this time by different individuals. If we go to security events, we're going to notice we're going to start an investigation from an alert. So in this, you see the Microsoft Office Child Process Alert. There are detection chains, which are groupings of event definitions that have detected things that are tied together. So we're going to start this investigation by this one message. You'll notice the remediation steps so that you can resolve the issue. We're going to add this to an investigation and create a new investigation. And we'll assign it to myself. And we'll set the priority to high. We can make some notes if we wish. We're going to confirm this and create the investigation. Now, you'll notice now that we've created the investigation, I can replay the search. This search will highlight the individual message that actually created the alert. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to surround myself with 10 seconds worth of messages around this time frame to see what else has gone on. So if I select this, it'll create a brand new search and indicate what additional logs might be included around the same time frame. So you'll notice looking at some of these logs, there's a particular user, Kyle Pearson desktop, and some other things that are occurring. You'll notice this PowerShell script that's been run. I'm going to add this and select it to an investigation. I'm going to select my own investigation. And as you'll see, when you go into investigations and open it up, you're starting to see logs appear in Graylog. Other investigations inside of Graylog, if we looked at this particular investigation that's going on right now, there's a potential phishing attack. This phishing attack has a number of logs that have been attached to it. In the events, there's 6 logs, and there's currently a timeline view. You can view this timeline to look at when things occurred and how different events or different things that have occurred in the logs have been grouped together. You'll notice this in the timeline. If you're quite unsure of what's occurring, you can generate a report using Graylog Security and AI. When you click the AI report, the individual logs themselves are being analyzed for what has happened, and it will provide you a report as to what it thinks has occurred to make it understood. Once you click and download the report or copy the report, you have access to it to start investigating the reports. Graylog offers multiple ways to enrich the data coming into Graylog. One of the most popular methods is through data adapters. There are multiple data adapter types that you can add information to Graylog. You can do Active Directory lookups, use the Alien Vault API, lookup for a CSV file, DNS lookups, IP info, and GeoMaxMind databases for GeoIP lookups, HTTP locations and paths, and many, many others, attaching data to your existing logs utilizing lookup tables and caches. Additional things you can do inside of Graylog, you have now the ability in Graylog for assets. Assets are building out machine assets or users for usernames across your network. These individual items, when built, can be built so that they'll attach themselves to logs based on whether the user's doing something inside a network or if they're actually doing something on a PC. The logs will then have this additional information added to them based on that. There are additional ways of adding vulnerability scanners into Graylog. This is the list of current vulnerability scanners you can add for Nessus, Microsoft Defender, Tenable Cloud, and Qualys, so that your vulnerability reports can get added to Graylog. When vulnerability reports are brought into Graylog, assets now have the ability to see what vulnerabilities might be available for those particular hosts if they haven't been patched up or there's clear information that's been passed on regarding those. As you go into alerts, you'll notice inside Graylog that we have detection chains and we have risk scoring. The risk scoring is generated based on what has been found for a particular type of alert from a Sigma rule or an event definition. That score is carried forward as you look at the asset, and if the asset has vulnerabilities that have been identified inside the vulnerability scanners, then this will increase the risk score. This risk score helps you triage what events you should dive into first. This allows the high priority items to be listed at the top, and you have the ability to sort these to know which ones are the most important. So data enrichment inside of Graylog gives you the ability to triage and understand what's most important inside of Graylog. And that finalizes this Graylog demo. If you wish to see more or contact us, check out the links in the description. Thanks for watching.